So here I am on the Bartang Valley, and I thought what better a place to do a review of the bike and give a little bit of feedback for people who are considering buying one of these. I'm going to go through the bike and my general setup of all of the things the modifications I've made to it, and then I'll give my opinion as to whether I think it's a good overland bike for long distance adventure riding like I'm doing. So let's go through the bike quickly. The suspension has been changed a number of different times, but inside it right now is the Öhlins FK 115 closed cartridge fork kits and a 5.5 linear spring. It's much better than it was, but it's still not right, and so I think that there might be something wrong with my stanchions rather than the suspension internals itself, but I'll have to sort that out when I get back. I've got a WRS touring windscreen, absolutely essential. Would I buy it again? I definitely would. It takes a lot of the buffeting and stress away from your helmet when you're riding. I've got the SW Motec crash bars. Would I buy those again? I definitely would, because they are useful. They protect the majority of the bike, and they're quite low profile, so it's quite nice. I've got an R&G Racing radiator cover. Again, I think that's a pretty essential thing. This one's aluminium, but it's pretty essential because a lot has hit it, and it's done fairly well. So it's held on. It's held on to the stones and stopped them going into the radiator. I've got the stock skid plate. I was considering changing this for an AXP polymer one for the weight saving, but the reality is it's a pretty decent skid plate in itself, and the weight is so low you don't really notice it. In fact, it helps somewhat with the balance of the bike, so I wouldn't really bother changing that, and so I didn't. I've got the Camel adventure pegs. I bought these before I'd actually taken a proper look at the stock pegs, and I think I'd probably stay with the stock pegs because they're not too dissimilar, so I wouldn't invest in those again. I think the footprint of these is fairly similar to the stock, so yeah, there's not much of an advantage to buying these ones. I've got Acerbis handguards. These are the ones that are vented. This is great for the warmer weather, but in the cold this lets all of the air come through, and also they're quite a poor fit on the handlebars. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, they said that they're made for the Tuareg, but I don't think they're made for the Tuareg Rally because the handlebar curvature is slightly different. I know that Barkbusters have released one which is specific for the Rally, so I think probably I'll change to those when I can find somewhere that has them. I've got the Adventure Spec Magadan 2 panniers. This is a Moscow Moto Mole pouch. It's weird actually, because it says this one is waterproof, and yet at the bottom there's a hole, so I'm not really sure if it's waterproof or not, or if that statement was true, or if it was just a misprint. But in any case, it's got my my cooking gas and my cup and coffee and different things inside, so that's pretty handy. And the Magadans are great because they also have introduced the Mole system on both sides, so you can just buy pouches and attach it on. I've got all my stuff inside dry bags inside here. This is my camping one, so you see it bulging. So you don't get any waterproofing with these Magadan panniers, but yeah, I mean, dry bags are cheap these days, and the modular system works great. Again, these are actually from Adventure Spec. So this one's got my jet boil in it, and this one, as you could probably tell, is the first aid kit. I've got a locking thing, which is a Moscow Moto cable lock. I wouldn't buy this again, actually, because I don't know if you can tell now, but I'm just pulling this cable through, so it doesn't really lock very well, particularly when the polymer gets a little bit heated. It's softer, so this doesn't grip. So slowly, as you ride and bounce, this opens, and periodically I have to close it again. I wouldn't buy that again. I'd buy the steel core straps, which do fit on the Magadan panniers, and in fact I've got them, but I didn't think I was going to bring them this time, and I should have. But I wouldn't buy those again. This is the second pair of Magadan 2 panniers I've had, so I absolutely would buy those again. They are light, they are easy to get into. I know you've got to fold them up and things, but it's relatively easy. They're light rain proof, but they're definitely bomb proof. I've dropped these lots and lots of times and crashed even, and nothing's happened to them. So yeah, and they're mounted on an Outback Motortech X-frame pannier rack. This is an Outback Motortech rear luggage rack too, that I've mounted this fake Amazon Basics Pelican case to. It's got my camera inside, and that with impact foam inside is an absolute godsend. If you've got a drone or any of these things, it keeps it all out of the way. And I've really hammered it, and my camera's working perfectly, so there's no issues with that. I'll definitely buy that again, or in fact move that to my next bike. I've got a Givy toolbox just stuck in beneath here. I put a DID heavy duty chain on, which actually is worn out already after 12,000 kilometers, so I'm going to change that. This is a 70 litre dry bag, mostly empty. I'd probably buy a smaller one. I think 45 or 50 litres probably fine for what I need, but as is with most things, if you've got more space, you tend to put stuff in it. So I'd rather have not done that, but in any case, it's there, it's working fine. And I've got a Desert Fox 6 litre fuel case, fuel bladder. That is essential because I can roll that up and put it in the panniers, and it's tucked away and it weighs almost nothing. And 6 litres of fuel will pretty much get you to any gas station, I think, unless you're really super in the middle of the desert or somewhere out in the wilderness. I've got a Technic aftermarket valve kit in the rear shock. Would I get that again? Probably not. I think the biggest problem with this bike is the front springs are too heavy for the forks. So the only time the forks really start performing and being somewhat kind of collaborative to your riding is when you're really hammering it hard on fast gravel, a bit like this actually, fast gravel, some rocks, washboard. Then the stock suspension starts to work really, really well. But for slower technical riding, I don't think the stock suspension is very good at all, to be honest with you. And for buzzing around the town and just generally riding the bike without going trail riding, I also don't think the stock suspension is very good. So it's a bit of a shame, to be honest, because I think that the suspension side of it ruins this bike for a general adventure bike. That's the kind of caveat here, actually. And the problem with the rear, I think the stock spring is too soft. And I think that being too soft and the front being too hard creates a little bit of an issue, because I'm only 72 kilos without any clothes on. So when I put my riding gear on, which is relatively light trail riding gear, the sag is really a lot. So you already have to go almost to the maximum preload to get the rider stag correct. And because that's so low, it unloads the front. And I think because it unloads the front and the sag, I didn't need to do anything with preload on the front when I got the bike from stock. And because it's so unloaded, I think that has an effect on the performance of the valves and the spring. So you need a lot more force to start activating the dampening in the valves. And if you're not riding with such speed and hitting things with that force, all you're getting is just almost a rigid pipe feeding back into the handlebars. And I think either my headstock bearing's gone or my nut has come loose. And I know that some people have posted on the forums that their headstock nut came loose. Now, that isn't a very normal thing to happen, and usually I've had it happen 3 times before on other bikes, and it was always because the front suspension was too hard. And then when I changed the springs and did some revalving, they never loosened again. The headstock bearing was absolutely fine. So it's always when the springs at the front forks are too hard. So yeah, it is a shame, and I think that unbalances the bike somewhat, and it makes it a little bit of a problem, particularly when you put luggage on, because I've bottomed out a lot of times. I've got maximum preload on, I've got maximum compression dampening on, and bear in mind this is an aftermarket valve kit as well, and it still bottoms out relatively easily. And when I sit on it, my rider sag, I dread to think what that is, but I can't do anything. I can't alter it at all. And I think that is causing a problem with the forks as well. So yeah, I would say anyone who's looking to buy an Aprilia Tuareg Rally, that one of the first things you should do before you look at the springs in the forks is upgrade the rear shock spring and help the bike kind of sit a little bit more level, and that might solve some of the harshness of the forks. It may not. You may still need to get some new springs, some lower rated springs or something, but first things first, I'd definitely go for the shock spring, and it's only $100 or so, so it's a pretty quick fix. The other thing I have is a quick shifter. Would I get that again? I think I would. It's pretty handy, especially when you're riding off-road and you've got a bit of pace. It just allows you to forget a little bit about the clutch, and you can just go up and down the gears, relatively freely. So I would definitely buy that again. Going up to the dashboard, I've got a quad lock thing, which I wouldn't buy again because they're super annoying. But once you buy into the quad lock ecosystem, of course you've got a case, and then you've got to buy the holder for the case. And once you've got the holder, if you're changing your phone, so I probably wouldn't buy it again. I think there's one called SP Connect, and I think that's much easier. But it does the job. It's so far the camera on my phone seems to be okay. The vibrating thing is doing okay. Would I buy it again? I'll probably go to the SP Connect, like I said. I have the Moscow Motor Nomini. Definitely like this bag. Small, big enough to hold some essentials, and it's out of the way when you're riding. I'll definitely buy that again. And I've got a Scott steering dampener. Would I buy that again? Absolutely. Even on this trail, on the Bartang Valley, I've been coming around some corners you can see it's already a little bit sandy anyway, but I've come around some corners and there's been this loose bull dust or silty type of sand, and the bike would have gone, actually it did, for the first time I met that on today's riding, the bike got very squirmy and went everywhere, so I ramped up the steering dampener, and I came around again to another kind of scenario, and the bike just straightened itself out and went through. I absolutely would say to anyone who's doing serious off-roading and adventure riding, you definitely need to get a steering dampener on your bike. And there's no surprise that the flagship Tenere, the Tenere World Raid, comes with one installed. So they are thinking about that, as do some of the KTM bikes. So the very off-road orientated bikes are coming with it for sure. I've also got the Aprilia standard comfort seat. The Rally comes with a super hard rally seat, and it's not comfortable. It's just simply not. After a couple of hours, your arse is killing you. So you can't go overlanding with that seat. I tried. I did the TET in Poland with it, and it was horrible. I was having to stand up on the road just to give my bum a rest. So it's heated. It's a nice to have. Never had a heated seat before, but when I was crossing from Turkey, it was super cold. It did help a lot. It was very comfy, but just for general comfort, definitely go for one of those for the longer trips. You can see it is this very nice kind of, I don't know what it is. It feels like a kind of suede or Alcantara type thing, but as you can see, it's holding all of the dirt, and I knew it would do that. So it's a bit of a trade-off, unfortunately. I don't know why they made it in that material. It feels nice, but I don't really care how it feels. I want to, with my fingers, I would just want it to be comfortable on my bum. So, but I would definitely get that again if I was going to get another Tuareg. For my navigation, I'm using a DMD T865X tablet in their off-road mount with, I think I mounted it with a Rally Raid RAM mount, and it worked fine. The software DMD is absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. It recognises when you're near tracks. If you've got a track that you've already loaded, if you've gone off track, it'll redirect you. Super good. And you can load all of the OSM maps. One of the only disadvantages I've noticed is because it's the OSM maps. When you come into this region, for example, where it's a Cyrillic alphabet, it doesn't translate anything. So if I'm looking, for example, for the Bartang River, it writes it in Cyrillic. And unless I know what the Cyrillic is and I know the name of the Bartang River in Cyrillic, I wouldn't recognise it. So it is a little bit of a thing, but it'd be good if that could be translated. Because I know the Garmin maps and all of these things for the region, they translate it all into Latin, so you can easily find it, and so does Google Maps. But This OSM doesn't, and that makes it a little bit more complicated. You've got to have two devices, one with Latin and one with this to plan things, but generally it's okay. The off-road mount is okay. I think it's a bit heavy, to be honest with you, and it does stress this kind of flimsy GPS bar here, which is why I've shoved one of my, I think it's my 21-inch inner tube down there to try and offer some stability, and it's just a handy place to keep it. Yeah, so I'm not sure if there's another mount. And I think this tablet is a bit shit quality, to be honest with you. They got it from a Hong Kong trading company called Topicon. And I know that for sure, because when I plug it into my computer, it comes up with a Topicon tablet. If you're buying something from a trading company, I think that probably you need to make sure that they have done a lot of quality checking, because very frequently this goes off. And I'm not sure if it's because of all of the bouncing and pounding it's had, but yeah, when I'm following a track to then the screen just go blank is a bit of an issue. And I've tried tightening all of the screws, and they're all tight as I can make them, so I'm not sure why that's happening. But the software itself I definitely get again, but this tablet I'm not really sure. And they charge £800 for this, which is as expensive as the Garmin Tread, and I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, so I know they've got a new device out at the moment called the Nor 7. Hopefully they've put a little bit more research into that one, and it doesn't have the issues that this does with vibration. But I don't know. But their software is good. So I'm here. Can't really change it very easily at the moment, so I'll stick with it. I've got Climb. I think these are... actually, I've no idea what gloves they are, but they're Climb gloves. Off-road trail gloves, heavily vented, terrible in cold weather because your hands get cold, but really loose on your hands. And so, yeah, definitely worth it. I'll get those again. And I've got a Climb Cryos Pro helmet with a Cardo mesh system. The Cardo system is great. Definitely buy that again because the sound quality is perfect. The speaker's great. The microphone's great. So, yeah, everything is great about that. The Climb helmet, I'm not sure. It's my second one, so I can't say I wouldn't buy it again because I did buy it again. But for the money, it's quite expensive. And one of the things, this is my second visor, and every time you're going up and down, particularly off-road, the retaining thing starts to wear out super quick. So this doesn't stay up anymore, it just drops. So you're riding along, you've got your sunglasses on, or if you've got goggles, that can probably hold it in place. But yeah, it just drops, and I think that's a little bit of crap quality for a helmet that's over £600. Would I buy it again? I have to say yes, because I've already bought it a couple of times, but I would hope that either the warranty covers the visor, I'm not sure if it does, or they do something to change the system. It's a super noisy helmet, and I think that's because of the Colruyt system and it being so light and stuff. But yeah, you will need some earplugs, or if you're happy to go deaf, fair enough. Yeah, but it's good. So about the bike then, is the Rally a good overland bike? I would say no, to be honest. If you're going to ask me would I buy one again, I'd say yes, I would buy one again. And it is such good fun riding on fast trails and just doing some off-roading locally. If I was going to take it on a trip, maybe like a 1 or 2 week trip is okay, but for a long term, several month multi-continental, it's too aggressive. I mean, they've done exactly what it says. They've made a rally replica, and it does feel like it. But sadly, for most of us, we're not rally riders. We are very average riders, and the throttle mapping chokes very low down in first and second gear. If you're doing slow technical work, the bike really doesn't like it. But sometimes you have to do that. Like on this trail, for example, here's fine. This kind of trail is exactly what the Rally is good for. But further up, there was lots of rocks, and when I was going up the very steep, very tight hairpins with loose rocks, you have to stick it in first gear, and it's super jerky. Second gear just chokes and stalls halfway around the hairpin. So I think the throttle mapping is a little bit too aggressive. The throttle's very, very responsive, so it makes it a little bit jerky. And this bike only feels very comfortable and settled when it's going really fast. Really strong here. When you're doing that, look at this. There's a sandstorm going over. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to do the video here. But yeah, overlanding, you don't really want to be going so quick all of the time. I'll use my bike actually for a bit of cover. Yeah, you don't want to be going so quick all of the time. You don't need such an aggressive throttle and engine, so it makes it a little bit more tiring on long days, and it also means you have to work a little bit harder to manage this bike on the technical sections. Fast forest trails like this section that I'm on now, this is absolutely brilliant, and in fact I think the balance of the bike is way better than the Tenerés that I had before this. I just think I'd like it remapped, and there are remap options available, so maybe that's something to sort out. But would I buy one again? I would buy one again. What I'd hope is that Aprilia sort out the suspension. I hope that they review the valving and the spring rating in the forks, and I hope that they would upgrade the rear shock spring to make it a little bit stiffer, just so the bike sits a little bit more evenly and loads the forks correctly. It's difficult actually, because I don't know what I would buy as a replacement to this to do overland travel, because I've had some Tenerés and they're very top heavy. When you compare them to this, the balance is completely different, but their low end torque is just unright. I could have gone round some of those hairpins probably in almost third, and the Teneré will just pull out of it, and that's quite nice to have when you're doing a lot of riding like this. This one, I was just in first, and it was trying to go. It spins the back wheel a bit too much, so it's a little bit more difficult managing that. But it is fun. So I don't know. It's a tough one. If you're prepared to have a bike that's like an angry teenager constantly pulling at your leg, wanting something, then this is great. This will be a great overland bike for you. But if you want a bike which is a bit more relaxed to ride, will get you through everything, and isn't so snatchy and difficult to feather the accelerator when you're in technical stuff, then this might not be the bike for you. Actually, the standard Tuareg, I haven't ridden one of those, so I don't know what it's like, but they've got progressive forks in the front, progressive springs in the front, so that would actually make it a lot more comfortable, and I think the throttle's mapped slightly different, so perhaps the better overland bike would be the standard Tuareg, but this does have a very fun engine, so yeah, it's a tough one. I wouldn't personally buy it again and use it as an overland bike, but I would buy it again and use it as a bike if I was going to go and do 1 or 2 week trips in various different places and do a lot of off-roading. I'd definitely buy it again because it is good. It's just a bit tiring overland on long days. Yeah, so it's a bit of an inconclusive answer actually to this the video. Is the Tuareg Rally a good overland bike? It is if you can handle it, but for the majority of us it might be a little bit too angry to be comfortable with for very long days. Well, it's just my opinion, and I'm in the middle of the Bartang Valley in Kyrgyzstan, so I've had a lot of time with this bike. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy riding it. It is good. There are just a few little tweaks that I would make to make it slightly better. Yeah, for me at least. Just an opinion. Hope that helps. Anyway, the sandstorm's gone. Well, it's blowing over there. I'm finished doing a video. It's starting to rain. It's probably time I get moving. Okay, see you.